You're listening to The World at 8 with Lynn Moser. The World at 8, the number one in nationalist news.
Highlights of the news today, the 20th of February. Accused of racism, boy aged 7. British worker wins £6,000 in compensation case. Romanians behind some of the highest crime figures. French meat mainly halal nowadays. Greece still on a knife edge with bailout news. Taliban forces profit from kidnappings in Pakistan. And thought for the day. UK news. A British boy aged 7 has been accused of racism for asking another boy if he was brown because he was born in Africa. The mother of the child being accused bravely refused to sign the Marxist left-wing racism declaration, saying that her son had been racist. The school's zero-tolerance policy anti-white document against racism is the final degradation to Indigenous people in their own lands. The teacher from Griffin Primary School said, "We acted in accordance with council guidance on racist incidents." A British chip shop worker has won £6,000 in compensation from her employer as she won her case for being sacked for being British. She claimed she was sacked because the employer was seeking cheap labour from abroad. Last month, the World at 8 reported fast food restaurants in Northampton employing illegal foreign workers. Local nationalists have said they will be watching who this chippy manager employs. Kimberly Burrell had worked in the chippy for 10 years when Muslims took over the business. Kimberly was replaced by Turkish and Polish staff getting £2 an hour less. After the tribunal, the arrogant Muslim chippy owner named as Zana Ahmed said that he would refuse to pay Kimberly her £6,000 compensation. One local said, "Joanna's Fish Bar in Hartlepool is being boycotted by British people." Romanians and Lithuanian immigrants, illegal or visiting Britain, are guilty of committing over 11,000 crimes against British citizens in London alone in the last 12 months. Some Romanian travellers were amongst the highest sex offenders against British women by being guilty of committing 1 in 3 of all rapes. A Polish immigrant was jailed for 34 years after he murdered a couple when he burgled their home just 7 days after being in Britain. One Lithuanian who the border agency let into this country was a convicted child rapist who was allowed to rape and savagely beat a British woman within days of walking in. EU laws make it hard to send these convicted people home after they have raped, beaten or murdered old age pensioners for their life savings. Euronews. Reports from France are saying that all meat sold in Paris is now halal. The cruel ritual of killing animals must be stopped in the whole of the Western world, one French nationalist has said. French political leader Marine Le Pen is challenging the left-wing President Nicolas Sarkozy in her presidential election campaign, linking immigration with the rise in the forced introduction to the French people having to eat meat from animals which have suffered an agonisingly slow death. Greece will know today if it will get its bailout to try and rescue a country torn by the EU mess. Germany has offered to help Greece, but it all comes down to finance ministers in Brussels on the main issue that has Greece done enough to get itself out of trouble, one report said. Thousands of protesters gathered again in Greece to protest against austerity measures. World news. Taliban forces are being given money and arms through kidnapping high-profile people, reports claim. The West has said that Pakistan has also not come clean on the issues of the secret whereabouts of Osama bin Laden. Sources have also claimed that other terrorist groups are receiving money from kidnapping to fund their terror operations against the West. Pakistan militia have suffered the loss of 8 of its personnel through a bomb blast that killed them outright. The bomb was planted by terrorists at a checkpoint by a group similar to the Taliban. Thought for the day. My thought for Monday is ageism. Not only open ageism as practised by the left-wing Marxist BBC, but the subtle rolling of the eyes ageism that women of a certain age seem to suffer in the workplace, if they are lucky enough to hold on to their jobs at all. There was an article in the Mail on Sunday written by Miriam O'Reilly, who used to present BBC's Country File programme. To sum up, she says that when she attended a show hosted by Radio 2's Jeremy Vine, a man called Ray rang up to state his point of view, which was, and I quote, "The majority of women get old and they don't look so palatable. They are not interesting to the viewers. But many, many men actually do look better as they get older and thus are more interesting to the viewers." Well, my listening friends, be thankful, be very, very thankful. The world as age is for the ears only. Otherwise you would have to put a cloth over the screen. I am here in all my mature glory, with undyed hair, unbotoxed face, and usually no makeup, and minus the thousands of pounds that pull up sagging whatevers and hoists for the boobs, so God knows what I would look like in front of a camera. But suffice to say, I do not agree with Ray. He is obviously talking from the male aspect of viewing. True, very few men, unless they have serious issues, would prefer to look at an old boot rather than a young lady, any more than men of a certain age prefer women of their own age and seem to go for youngsters. That is as nature intended and every man's prerogative. To the victor go the spoil, so to speak. But in the case of BBC and the media, I think a lot more leeway could be given to mature women who have many more years of experience and still manage to look good on screen. One of my sons told me that he would rather look at a mature woman on TV than Norman Parkinson, whose face frankly looks like a bag of frozen testicles. The subtlety of the tactics used against Miriam was firstly to remove the show from prime time to afternoons. And you know when you're on the skids, ladies, when you are no longer considered prime time viewing. This attitude is not new. Many years ago, when I was in my 20s, I took a job with a country estate agent. He had in his front office a lady who had worked for him for many years and was around late 50s, and unfortunately for her she did look her age. On the day I started she was moved from the front of house to a small room in the back. I queried this with him and he said more or less, "You look better for the customers than she does." This was 30 odd years ago and out in the sticks of what was then Horsham in Sussex, hardly the city or indeed any main city. It is all very well and good trying to get mature women back to work, but if we are only relegated to doctors' surgeries and supermarket tills, where you are after all faceless robots, one loses the desire to even try. The media should, in a perfect world, continue to have ladies like Selina Scott and Miriam O'Reilly in front of house, amongst many others. They are still attractive, even if only to the majority of silver watchers, and deserve their hard-earned place in the media show. I am personally sick and tired of turning on any channel and seeing most, if not all the broadcasters, a definite darker shade of pale and prepubescent. There must be British white and young people who apply for these jobs. So even taking into account the sorry state of the nation's youth when it comes to speaking, there must be some who can speak correctly and project. Of course it could all be part of the greater plan to have as many Asians as possible in the media, which would explain the rush to get rid of older women on the sorry excuse of viewers' preferences. Well, my preferences is not so many Indians and Pakistanis to look at, but my own tribe, thank you. This must be the only country in the world where you turn on the TV and see non-English presenters non-stop. Try turning on the TV in Japan, China, India and Africa. Not exactly a lot of white presenters there, I fear, are there? There, I have said it. I feel much better and will continue to wave the flag for our beleaguered Silver Brigade in the media. Even if they do die, nip and tuck, they deserve it. And finally, 4 Muslim men are facing lengthy prison sentences by holding up and robbing using burqas in the northwest of Britain. The Muslim gang who did a £30,000 jewellery heist in Lancashire gained access to the shop with one dressed in a burqa, followed by the others brandishing a shotgun and an axe. The shop owners were Muslims, who unfortunately for them actually allowed the burqa-clad gang to enter on grounds of the person wearing the burqa being morally good. You have been listening to The World at 8. I am Lynn Mozart and I wish you all a very good night.